God bless you, church. Thank you for joining us again for our daily devos. This week, we have been going over the 7 spirits of God that we find in the book of Isaiah, chapter 11, verse 2. And let us read that verse here. Isaiah chapter 11, verse 2, it says this. It says, "And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord." Today, we want to specifically talk about the spirit of understanding. If at any point in your life you've asked for advice, maybe from a friend, maybe from a coworker, maybe from a family member or someone that's dear and near to you, you've probably asked, "What should I do in this situation?" And they've probably responded with, "Well, just follow your heart. Just do whatever your heart tells you to do. Just listen to your heart." And so that is the advice that we're given. And to be honest, the creed, "follow your heart," is a creed that can sound very simple, right? And it can also sound very beautiful. It can be very liberating in a sense, and it can be a very tempting gospel to believe. Just follow your heart. We hear it in Disney movies. We hear it in Hollywood. We hear it on TV. We hear it on our Netflix series. We hear it everywhere. We hear it, just follow your heart. And it can be very liberating just to say, well, you know what? I will just follow my heart. I'm going to do whatever I please. I'm going to do whatever makes me feel best. But you know what the scripture tells us about our hearts? It tells us in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 9, it says this. It says that the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? So let me ask you again, according to the scriptures, according to the gospel, is it safe to follow your heart? The answer is an overwhelming no. Scripture tells us that our hearts are deceitful, that they're sick, and who can understand them? Our hearts are constantly changing. Our desires are constantly shifting and evolving. What we want today, tomorrow, we may not even like. What we thought we wanted 10 years ago, today we're like, man, I don't even care about that. Our hearts are deceitful, and more importantly, our hearts are very manipulative. What they want to do is just give you whatever you want. Our hearts are very selfish, and they only think about ourselves. We'll do whatever it takes to get what we want. That is who we are as people. So when the Bible tells us that the heart is deceitful above all things, that's a warning that we should not lean on our own understanding. However, though, as today we're talking about the spirit of understanding, then we should strive for understanding. Many times when people have contradictions or they want to come against Christianity or the Bible, many times what they will say is that we are blindly following something, that we have a blind faith. And while I believe that, yes, there is a certain truth to that, we believe in something that is not seen. That is what Scripture says that faith is. Faith is hope in the things that are unseen. However, that does not mean that we separate faith and intellect. That doesn't mean that we separate faith and logic. That doesn't mean that they're on opposite ends of a wall. And so we should strive for understanding. When we hear that we should not lean on our own understanding, the scripture is not asking us to not search for understanding. What it's actually encouraging us is to know where this understanding is coming from. As a matter of fact, the book of Proverbs chapter 2, verse 2 says that we need to incline our heart to understanding. The book of Proverbs chapter 2, verse 3 says that we need to raise our voice for understanding. In the book of Proverbs chapter 2, verse 11, it says that understanding will guard you. And in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 13, it says that blessed is the one who gets understanding. The Bible is not against knowledge. It's not against understanding. It's not against the intellect. But what it is against is our own and our selfish and our prideful intellect, where we think we know it all already. What we should do, and what we really want to point out today, is that we need to gain understanding from the Spirit of God. The book of Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 and 6 puts it beautifully. It says this, it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. It also says that in all your ways acknowledge him and he will make straight your paths. Listen, church, I want to challenge you as we finish off today's Devo that don't lean on your own understanding any longer. We talked about wisdom the other day. This goes hand in hand with wisdom. Wisdom and understanding go hand in hand. We ask for wisdom, God grants us wisdom, but we also have to ask for understanding. And as scripture tells us here, that when we acknowledge him in all our ways, that means when we acknowledge him with our family, when we acknowledge him with our career, when we acknowledge him with our studies, when we acknowledge him with our bodies, when we acknowledge him with our minds, when we acknowledge him with our relationships and our jobs and our finances, when we acknowledge him in all our ways, he will make our path straight. Can I urge you to submit yourself to the Spirit of God, to submit yourself to the Spirit of understanding, and will you watch God guide you and lead you into his perfect will? There is good things, but then there are God things. Good things may be rewarding for a season, but God things will last for an eternity. And the only way you'll know to differentiate between the two is with understanding from the Spirit of God. Church, I pray this has blessed you. I pray this series has been a blessing. And we are continuing this series tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in today. And I pray that you have a blessed day.